we are talking about everything that you need to know about Ori. So, guys, if you are watching live, go ahead and feel free to type any comments, concerns, questions, etc. in the chat window, and we'll handle them as we go along. If you're watching the replay, guys, let me know whatever stood out to you, whatever questions you may have that are lingering about this subject matter, or anything else that we do at Asanee 44. So, guys, greetings. So, a few salutations. Lidria, I think Lidria, right? Greetings and welcome. Greetings, aside you, Alafia. Okay, so what we are going to do is we're going to go ahead and jump into the conversation because I got quite a few questions from you guys about Ori on what do you call it, IG and things like that. And apologies, I sent that out later than I intended to this week. So, but you guys did get in some of your questions, so that's perfect. And thank you again, as always. Greetings, welcome, welcome. Your new what is it? West Adams. Is that how you say it? West Adams 5. So you're very welcome, all who are coming in, who are new, who've been with us for a while. I really appreciate everybody for showing up. So let's jump into it. So we're gonna talk about like just the basics of the Orisha first. Ori first. So Ori is our head. It's our literal head, and it is also our spiritual head. And we're going to get to the different dynamics involved in that. But from a pure translative perspective, Ori simply means head in Yoruba. Okay. And we have more than one head according to the tradition. And also many other spiritual practices understand this concept. And I'm going to get into that later on as well. So the physical head, obviously, that's the part of your body, the part that we lead with. Even when we think about the chakras or what have you, it encompasses, right, the third eye and the crown chakra. It actually covers, that top part. That's the height of your spiritual journey and your ability to discern and understand in the spiritual realm when it comes to other spiritual practices, okay? We have that part of the body, but we also have a metaphysical consciousness that's linked to our divine guidance and how we're to carry out our destiny and how it shapes our lives and things of that nature. All right. Greetings, our audience. Thank you, as always, for showing up. So, Ori is our personal divinity. That is the Orisha, because it is an Orisha as well that stays with us throughout our lifetimes. It is close to us. All right. It governs our destiny, our purpose, our life direction. That is the most important divinity because that's the one that's closest to you and will always be with you. And your journey, your destiny has already been mapped out through this particular aspect. Greetings and peace to all, Galactic Sea. Thank you for joining as well. So in the Yoruba tradition, there are two different aspects of what we call Ori, or two layers of it, right? We have the Ori Inu and the Ipunri. I'm probably going to mispronounce a few things, so y'all bear with me. So the Ori Inu, that is what we call our inner head, right? That's the space where our thoughts and things like that come from, our intuitive knowing, etc. Some people are said to live in their heads, so they're constantly in communication with Ori, sometimes to the detriment of their physical existence. So I don't want to call name, but Pisces. I know you all are like that, and trust me, it's a joke because myself, I have Pisces ascendant, so I am consistently in my head. Greetings, Reniverse. Thank you for joining us as always. So that's the true essence of a person, said to be like it's really your mind. So it wouldn't be necessarily the outer layer of you. Obviously, the way you think, the way you process information is going to manifest in the outward, but that is what shapes who we are as people. So already new is the seat of our intelligence, our personality, our destiny, all of those things. It includes those fixed aspects of our being. When you come out, you are naturally going to be inclined to do certain things and be a certain way, just by the very nature of what you chose when you came into this earth, before you came into this earth, rather. Okay, so you are already going to be kind of geared towards one way or another. So that's how we come out. And some people may, have a natural inclination for certain professions. They're just really, really good at it without even having any training towards it. Some people are just very, very analytical. They can sort things out with no schooling, no education, etc. That's what makes us us without any external influence whatsoever. So the Ipanri is the spiritual consciousness, right? That's our counterpart, the Ori that remains in heaven or Orun while we are here in the earth. You can kind of think about it from the perspective of a doppelganger or something like that, though typically a doppelganger is thought to be kind of a shadow aspect of you, right? A negative or nefarious spirit. But it is kind of your double. In modern times, it's kind of become associated with you having a physical double on earth somewhere, that somebody that looks just like you and has almost an identical life as you or something like that. But the original meaning of that concept is about you having a spiritual double. And so that's the same kind of notion that we look at when we're talking about the spiritual consciousness aspect of Ori, the Ipun Ori. Greetings, 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 Hidden Beauty. Thank you for joining us. So when we talk about this concept, this is the perfect aspect of who we are, the perfect aspect of our Ori. Here on earth, we're living out our journey and we're going through so many different challenges and so forth and so on. And so that shapes us, right, in many different ways. And we're obviously not perfect. Nobody is perfect, but the perfect aspect of yourself is still in heaven. That's what people often refer to as the higher self. Okay, when you're talking about Ipunri, that's the part of us that's still in the heavenlies and shaping our journey. But it's up to us how much we connect with it and how much we actually fulfill our destiny, right? So this part, the spiritual consciousness, maintains that complete knowledge base of what we chose before we left a room, right? So our goal is to consistently maintain alignment with that aspect of ourselves that is in the heavenlies, so that we can fulfill our destinies and we can move forward in this journey. All right. In the Ifa tradition, most traditions, you will hear that the Ori, that higher consciousness, that higher self, is the most important divinity, because there's no other Orisha or spirit that can override its authority, no matter what you do or what you try. Okay, so Lidria, you're asking, can you discuss the spiritual aspects of ADHD and mental health challenges in relation to your Ori? I'm going to touch on this briefly. It's a good question. Now, there are two aspects of it, right? So any mental health challenge, ADHD being part of that dynamic, you could have actually chosen to incarnate in this physical realm with a mental health challenge. It absolutely happens for some people. So some people you see walking around and they're disturbed, or what we consider to be disturbed, they chose that experience because they needed to learn something from it for whatever reason, right? Obviously, there are also environmental factors that, and also other spiritual factors that you didn't choose. It could be like a curse or somebody sending some bad energy or what have you your way. So when it comes to the environmental aspects of it, if you are dealing with chemicals or poisoning that is either causing or exacerbating ADHD or any other mental health challenge, that means you're out of alignment with Ori. So you need to get back into alignment with Ori. And this is important, especially when we come to the notion of taboos and things like that, because sometimes you may be violating a taboo that's actually causing you mental health problems, right? So it may be certain food that you're not supposed to consume, but you're consuming it out of ignorance. You just don't know what you don't know. And because of that, then you're in a space where you're out of alignment with your Ori and you're suffering from mental health conditions in that case, right? And of course, as I said, there could also be some negative energy that's sent your way, and you're dealing with curses or bad energy that the doctors call ADHD, autism, neurodivergence, so forth and so on. So that's another aspect that you have to consider. The only way you truly know the difference is through EDAFA. That's Ifa divination, to see, well, did I choose to incarnate this way? Am I violating taboos, or are there environmental factors that are impacting my mental health? Or did somebody send a curse my way or something like that? So I hope that answers your question. Greetings, Samantha. Thank you for showing up as always. Okay, so one of you all asked the question, why should you start working with your ancestors when Ori is the most important deity? Which is an excellent question, because that's what we oftentimes hear when people are integrating into Ifa and other African traditions. Start with your ancestors, build an ancestor altar, do ancestor veneration practices, etc., etc. Well, we in the diaspora, and let me do specify that, because this is not a thing in traditional Yoruba society that they're going to start with their ancestors, because many of them are just born into the tradition through their bloodline. And so they are seeing this thing from a young age, and they just naturally integrate into it the same way that you would in any household. If you came from a Christian background, you just saw your people worshiping Jesus, and you followed suit as soon as you were old enough to do so, right? You're saying, where do you begin your journey into this? I got a question on IG. Perfect timing, perfect question, because this is exactly what I'm talking about. You begin with your ancestors. If you're referring to Ifa, and thank you for that, Lidra. You said it did answer your question. Perfect. So we start with our ancestors, because before Ori, most often, it's not everybody has to do this. It depends on where you are. But I oftentimes recommend it, because Ori, our ancestors, we have an ancestral Ori that's part of our bloodline. So you want to connect with that first. You got to think about it similar to how when you come out in this world, you don't just start your journey, right? Even though you chose your destiny in a room, you don't just jump into this life and you're walking, you're talking, you're working, you're paying bills and all of that. It doesn't happen that way, right? So you come out through your parents, and normally those are the people who are going to care for you, extended family members, your grandparents, aunts, uncles, elders, people who have already been on the earth, who are adults or going towards that direction, are the ones who are going to be responsible for your care at some level. Why? Because you don't know anything at that stage. You need, not even not knowing anything, you must be cared for, because you cannot care for yourself. You're required to, somebody's required to feed you in order for you to even survive. Excuse me. You can't walk, you can't talk, you can't do any of those things. So think about the dynamic in that way as well when it comes to you coming back to the tradition. You don't know anything. You are a baby. And in being a baby, you're going to have to take those baby steps and depend on the elders around you, your guardians, etc., who can lead you in the right direction, because you don't fully understand who you are at that point. Okay. So when you first awaken to your journey, you may not have that knowing, even so, about what Ori is. And even if you have a semblance of understanding similar to what I just explained here, you may not be connected with your Ori, right? Usually you're misaligned. And so you don't really know what's truly coming from Ori, your intuition, and what's your ego and what's just outside noise, right? So it's great to start with your ancestors and ask them for guidance and protection first before you just jump into any traditional practice, any spiritual practice, period, and whatever you want, depending on whatever you decide that you want to do. Greetings, Emunet. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. So that's one of the reasons. Understand that your ancestors, they act as elders, like in the community, as I just said, guardians, etc. They're going to guide you in the right direction. It's much easier to connect with them, especially from a diaspora perspective, with starting with the altars and things like that, versus going directly to your Ori. It would be great if you could, but most people, again, they just don't know about it. When many people come into African spirituality, they don't even start with a specific religion or tradition, if you will. Usually they start hearing about the ancestors and then they go through that route. So that's why it's a great reason to start from there, because when you connect with your ancestors, you are still connecting with Ori, your ancestral Ori. Okay, they're part of your genetic makeup, your cosmic makeup, if you will. And so they live inside of you. You are the ancestors' return. It's great to tap into that knowledge from the door, if possible. Greetings, alien black girl. Thank you for joining us as well. So let's look at the notion or the connection between Ori and destiny. In the Ifa system, right, every single person is said to choose their Ori before coming into the world. All right. They select that path that they wish to walk for whatever reason. You're very, very welcome, Carmen the Libra. You're very welcome. They select that journey. And as I said before, when I think it was Libra asked about like the mental health challenges and things of that nature, some people actually choose that because they need to learn a lesson from it. That's what everybody's destiny is about. Like, what lessons do you need to learn when you incarnate into this earth? And it's different for everybody. You're going to have your own things that you need to take care of. This is another reason why people have different taboos and things like that they have to adhere to. Even when you go through Ifa initiation, you're going to get your own Odu, and you're going to have to learn to work within that context, because that's the Odu that born you, that you were born under. So keep that in mind as well. That we have free will. That's the reality too. Yes, you chose your destiny, but you are not compelled to walk that destiny when you're on this earth, whether you know about it or not. The thing is, many of us who are coming to the tradition from the diaspora have no idea what our destinies are. We don't even understand the concept fully, because most of the time, when, at least from my experience, when people come to me and they're asking about destiny, they're really asking about their occupation, and that's not the same. Your occupation is part of your destiny, could be part of your destiny. Some people were born to work in specific career fields, but some people, it's okay whatever you do, or I won't say whatever you do, but some people have a wide variety of things that they can do, and it's not like that they will miss their destiny if they don't go down this specific career or occupational pathway. But some people, their career or occupational pathway is critical to them fulfilling their destiny. You don't know until you walk through the process of either EDAFA, you can get a reading, but really Ifa initiation is the ultimate where you know full on what your destiny is about. Okay. But every day you're making decisions as far as what direction you're going to go in. Understand that your destiny cannot be changed, though. Nobody, you can't change your destiny. You can't change your gender, right? I don't care what kind of procedure that you go through, you are not changing what is biologically part of you. You can't change your race, things like that. You, no matter how much skin cream you decide to use, you can't change things that are biologically there. All right. And you can choose to be called certain things. You can choose to go through the procedures in order to change things, but that doesn't change what you chose in a room before you came to this earth. All right. Not only that, it's also like the lessons that you were meant to learn. So sometimes even people are stressing because they have challenges, and those challenges are actually meant to strengthen them so that they can walk their destined path. And again, how do you know the difference? EDAFA, E for divination, right? You can miss your destiny if you're not walking in alignment. That's the reality of it. If you don't know, but you don't know, that 9 times out of 10 you will miss at least some critical parts of your destiny. So that's how it goes, right? A good Ori, and I've discussed this before, versus a bad Ori. We're going to talk about that. So a good Ori, Ori Iri, means that your life is aligned with the blessings, with balance, with purpose, the things that you chose before you came in. You are walking in alignment, not perfection, but for the most part, alignment. A bad Ori is Ori Baruku. That reflects consistent misalignment and life blockages. There's no such thing truly as a bad Ori, but I know you guys hear this, and I remember talking about this in a previous live stream. It's not that it's bad, it's really a misalignment. But if you want to use that terminology, something that you're familiar with, then that would be a quote unquote bad Ori. Leisure, you're asking, can people choose bad destinies? They do not. And it's a really good question. They choose the destiny that they need in order to grow and move forward in this life. What happens when we see people not living to their fullest, when we see people like maybe strung out on drugs or homeless or just always in problems and drama and things like that, is somebody who is actually out of alignment with their destiny. They didn't choose a bad destiny. They're just not walking in their destiny, and they're suffering greatly because they are not doing so. But that's a really, really good question. Now I got another question from you guys prior to, which is how can you discover your destiny through Ifa? So that's going to be through Idafa, Ifa divination, as I said before. Every single solitary reading that you get in the Ifa tradition is going to reveal various aspects of your destiny. Whatever's going on in your current situation, possible future trajectory, any taboos that may be applicable to you at that time, or long lasting warnings, strengths, weaknesses, and prescriptions, which is the elbow that you will do in order to get back into alignment. Now, the reason I say Ifa reading, and Ifa reading specifically, is because every single Ifa reading, as I've said before, comes with an Odu. The Odu is going to tell you where you are at that particular stage in your destiny path and what you need to do to get out of to get into alignment, right? If you're out of alignment in certain areas, or if you got forces that are trying to attack you to cause you to get out of alignment and things like that, okay? Ifa initiation, that is that ultimate step that provides you with that deeper understanding of your personal or your life Odu, as I mentioned before. So when you go through Ifa divination, you're going to get the full knowledge of your personal Odu. And that's going to tell you what path you were meant to walk. You will still do Idafa thereafter in order to know what's going on at that current stage. What do you need to do to get in alignment and to stay in alignment? But every Ifa reading is designed to tell you something about your destined path. Now, how do we care for our Ori? One of the questions I received as well was, how do we cleanse our Ori? Very, very good question, a very important question, because this is something that we need to be consistently aware of and focused on. So in Ifa specifically, all right, the primary way that you're going to honor your Ori is through Ibori, which is a form of Ebo that's specific to your spiritual head. Now, if you get a reading, and oftentimes people do say it comes up that you do need to do Ibori. You can do it anytime, even outside of a reading. You could just say, I want to do Ibori, and ask your priest, like, what does my Ori need or want right now from me in order to help me to get back into alignment? And so the offerings are different, right? Ori takes a number of different offerings. Fish is very, very important to Ori, but it's not the only offering. It's best to know what your Ori wants at that specific time. Or if maybe you don't have the money, or you don't have a lot of money, I should say, you can do one of the lower level offerings to appease Ori. But I always advise people to check and see what the Orisha want before you just say, I'm going to go and give an Orisha any type of offering. Because it's just like you, right? If somebody wants something from you, they don't go and choose what to give you in order to get what they want from you. They have to negotiate that from you, because what they're willing to give you may not be what you'll accept in order to give them the exchange that they need. And that's the same way, we work with the Orishas. It's a process. It's reciprocity, right? And it's not just I go and do what I want to do. Is what do I need to do in order to appease you, so that you can help me to find balance in my journey. Ray, yeah, it's not spelled good, but spelled properly. But Ray is is basically the good aspects, positive aspects. So whenever you receive an Ifa reading, it's going to come in. Am I saying it right? I will just, I feel like I'm not pronouncing it right. Ray, I'm going to put the word in the comments, right? This is how it's spelled, in case somebody is confused about what I'm saying right now. But I just put it there. This is how you spell it, Ray. All right. So that's the positive aspect. That means that you are pretty much in balance. Everything is on the good side. If you get an Ifa reading, it's going to come either in Ire or Ebi. Ebi means the negative aspects, or unbalanced, significantly unbalanced aspects of your life. And, it happens sometimes, but obviously we all want our readings to come out any rate of positive aspect. But good question. Thank you for that. I hope I answered it. I hope you understood my answer to it. Alrighty. So we talked about Ibori, all right. So now, feeding your Ori involves those sacrifices and offerings that it accepts, as I just talked about before. I often get ahead of myself. You can also possess an Ori icon. So that's Ili Ori. That's the house of Ori, whereby you are going to keep that in your shrine area, your altar area, or what have you, and you will be feeding it on a regular basis. It's great to have one, because therein you keep that spirit close to you, and you can feed it and speak to it and pray to it all the time. Okay. Oh, you're saying I'm saying it correctly. Thank you for that. And I would just, positive, goodness, balance, exactly. So that's what we just talked about with Ray. So yes, there is an icon. Going back to that, there is an icon, because some people are not aware of this as well. Some people think it's only icons for the Orishas, and that's not correct. Well, it is correct, but Ori is an Orisha too, and some people don't really consider Ori and Orisha the same way that they do with like Ogun, Oshun, and all of the other ones, right? Ori has its own house. It would be great for you to get that, right? If you can only get one, or you only want to do one, or it would be great to have. Most people are going to start you off with the hand of Ifa. An Ifa priest or priestess will start you out with the hand of Ifa. If you're working with an Orisha, they may say that you need a pot for that particular Orisha that they work with, depending on what comes out in your reading. I don't really know how Orisha readings are performed, so I can't tell you a lot about that. But with Ifa divination or with Ifa, because a Babalawo or an Ianifa is an Ifa priest or priestess, so they specifically do their readings with Orumula, right, or who we call Ifa. And so you would likely be told to start there first, and you should. But Ori is also great to have. I always say that, Ifa, Eshu, Ori, your Igby, ancestors in some cases. Ancestors are very, very important to you, but I don't necessarily recommend everybody having an ancestor icon or pot with them, just because of the way it's structured. But that's a different conversation. This is a focal point for your prayers, for your offerings. You're going to be feeding it on your own offerings. If you're not initiated, you won't be doing sacrifices at that point, or life force offerings. You can also connect with your Ori through a number of other means. You should be, not can, you should be connecting with your Ori through a number of different things. Consistently talking to your Ori. That's what I mean by daily prayers. You can call it whatever you want to, but just have those conversations with your Ori. Sit and listen to your Ori. Sit in stillness at some phases of your day, especially. I was about to say your journey, but your day in and of itself. Try to sit and just in quietness, listen to your Ori speak. Constantly express gratitude to your Ori, because your Ori is protecting you from so many different things that you may not be aware of at that time. And I get this so many times where something is going on, I have no idea it's going on. And then later on, I find out and I realize just how much my Ori, my ancestors, and my spiritual team as a whole. But I say Ori because Ori is the one that allows the access. So even if it's another Orisha that is actually protecting me in that instance, it was Ori that allowed their protection to come. So, I'm always giving thanks and praise to my Ori. Maintaining a positive mindset. And I've talked about that before. You have to try your best to stay positive. We all go through it sometimes. We get depressed, so I'm not saying be perfect. I go through it myself. Sometimes I get angry. I'm questioning. I'm like, what is going on? But as soon as you start to allow yourself to be enveloped by negativity, immediately you are getting out of alignment with your Ori, and you need to course correct as soon as possible. Okay, because that's when you start whatever you're thinking, that's what your Ori assumes that you want. And some people, especially depending on the power of your words or the power of your thoughts, you can manifest things immediately by just thinking negative things. So you want to be very, very careful. And therein, that's why sometimes people think, well, I must have a bad destiny because I'm going through all of this stuff. It could be your mindset, and you could just have a very, very powerful mindset, very, very powerful speech, and you're walking around all the time perpetuating negativity in your life, and you think that is your destiny or your Ori, and it's not. It's you doing what you do. Okay. You're saying, Samantha, is it best to hold your Ori when praying? You can. I won't necessarily say it's best. That's a traditional way. It's just, touch your Ori and talk to it. You can do that, but you don't have to, right? You can pray in any position that you desire to. If you want to, it might be more helpful for you to kind of focal, as a focal point or what have you. That's what many prayer poses and things like that are. It's just to kind of focalize the energy. Even when we do, well, that's a mudra too, right? But when we do mudras and things like that, those are just ways to focalize the energy. We're going back to your liberty. right? And that's your lifestyle. That's eating healthy, exercising, doing all the things that are going to keep your body, your mind, your spirit in focus and able to move and do the things that you need to do. You need to maintain a good liberty. If you're, not eating well, a lot of processed foods, things of that nature. I'm not saying that you have to be vegan or anything like that, but the more healthier you live, the more you're feeding your aura. Your positive thoughts. You're feeding your aura through those different things. Okay, making intentionally aligned decisions when you know, like, this is going to keep me aligned, and you go in that direction versus this over here is not part of my alignment, but I'm going to do this anyway because this is what I desire to do, right? These are not the things that we want to engage in when it comes to remaining aligned. Another question I received is, do you need a priest to pray over your aura? You don't need a priest to pray over your aura. You can absolutely pray or say chants and things like that on your own. Now, does a priest pray over you? Absolutely. During the process of Iwari, they will say prayers and do incantations and things like that. And if you are under a priest or a priestess or something like that, like if you have a godparent, they hopefully are continuously praying for you, even outside of you doing ritual work and things like that. A lot of priests or whatnot, they will pray over the community, their temple, the people within their temple, just in general. And sometimes when they're doing communal like rituals and things like that, they'll go ahead and say prayers for the people who they work with. How to recognize and correct your aura misalignment, right? So you can fall out of alignment. We all do from time to time. That's just the reality of life. This can happen for many, many different reasons. Whenever you're acting against your destiny, obviously, when you're ignoring your spiritual practices, you're not praying, you're not feeding your aura or your other icons that you may possess, or you're just disconnected from your inner guidance. All right. So, what are some of the signs that you are misaligned first before we get into the remedies for this? So, signs of misalignment include you being confused, making really poor choices, especially repetitively poor choices. So let's say you keep going into the same type of relationship over and over and over again, right? That's a sign that you're misaligned with your aura. You're not listening to aura, or you're not getting the feedback that you need to before you go into these alliances. Repeated failures over and over and over again, unexplained hardships or setbacks. It just don't make any sense. Everything is set up properly, but it's not moving right in your life. That's a sign that you're misaligned with aura. It can also manifest as just you stagnation. You can't move forward, even though you may even want to. You can't seem to move forward. Being constantly frustrated in life, feeling disconnected, right? Feeling lost, things like that. Neglecting your aura oftentimes leads to all of those things: confusion, frustration, etc., because you are not aligned with the destiny that you're supposed to be on. So you're not going to feel good. Your aura is not going to allow you to enjoy life when you're not on the proper path that you're supposed to be on. It's going to constantly send you those warning messages and those alarms in different ways through challenges and trials that you may have in life. So you want to be careful to, when you're dealing with those things, figure out what's going on. I'm not in alignment. I need to get back in alignment. How do you become misaligned? A lot of times that trauma in life, this is what has happened to most of us in the diaspora, right? Because we didn't even come into a space where we understood the dynamics of destiny and destiny fulfillment and so forth and so on. We've endured systematic generational trauma that we are still carrying in our DNA because we are our ancestors' return. Because of that, many people just come out into the earth misaligned from the door, right? And I'm not talking about you're born in original sin from like a Christian perspective. No, it's just misalignment because you don't even know heads from tails. You come out and you're born to people who are misaligned. And so you're going to be in this perpetual state of misalignment until you get yourself back on track. That's just the reality of the world that we live in. It's going to cause you many, many problems. So you can repair this, of course, through the spiritual practices. I already talked about Ibori. That's the main type of elbow that you're going to do to your ori on a consistent basis. How often is completely up to you. But if you're dealing with some serious challenges, you might want to just check and see, like, do I need to do this right now? Again, you can go and get a full reading to see what Orishas need feeding at a time if you're dealing with a lot of challenges and you think it may be ori blocking your blessings. But you can also go directly to your owl and just say, if you just feel it, because sometimes I just feel it, like I know where it needs to be fed. And so I go to Owl Audis and say, check and see what my ori needs right now. And that's what I give it so that my life can be realigned. Obviously, walking in Iwapele, this gentle character. You want to have upstanding, upright moral character, because the more you get out of alignment with that, the more challenges that you're going to have, even if they don't present themselves right away when you are involved in negative activity. All right. But they will eventually come. And we already talked about the Ibori and your regular spiritual practices too, because I forgot to say that. So that's, like I said, the prayer, even so meditation, visualization, all of those things help. So in Ifa, you can and you should do any type of spiritual activity that is going to benefit your life as long it is not violating any type of taboos or anything like that. RME two deuces three, you're great. Thank you so much. Thank you for the compliment. Can someone steal your destiny? This was another question that I got. No, it's like nobody can override your ori, what your ori has from you. However, they can create energetic blockages, all right, to either distract you or confuse you from fulfilling your destiny and aligning with your ori. All right, so there are plenty of people who absolutely engage in witchcraft and other types of practices, and they send negative energy your way. Does this affect your path? Absolutely, it can. I won't say it always does. Again, the more you stay in alignment, the more you stay with your spiritual practices, even so fasting, I forgot to mention that earlier, fasting on a consistent basis, praying, being grateful, keeping a positive mindset, so forth and so on, the more resistant you are to those types of attacks. But people do it. They try it all the time with pretty much everybody. There's somebody out there that wants to try something against you. So you stay strong and you do what you're supposed to be doing. Most of the time, those attacks can't penetrate you. Sometimes they can. I'm not going to say never just because you walking in alignment or what have you. It depends on the circumstances. It depends on how strong their potions are, right? So you want to check. You want to make sure that you're good. And even when somebody does something against you, you can do Evo, you can do a kosher. I should have put the spiritual medicine up there too, because sometimes people need that depending on the level of work that has been done against them. You have a question here, artiste. Do you have any suggestion on how to release yourself from being trapped in or like being more in your head rather than your body? Yes. So this has been a challenge for me pretty much all my life. So I will say, you're grounding. Grounding is very important. So that looks like you actually going and touching the earth. Physical activity. So even like if you just want to go to the gym, it's better to be in the environment. But if that's not possible, if you just go to the gym and do some physical activity, Do things that are going to force you to get in your body. There are certain herbs that you can take as well. I use St. John's wort. I still I take it every day, and it helps me a lot to stay focused because I too have OCD, right? And so that's a huge reason why. I'm sorry, guys. I'm trying to plug this laptop in before my battery goes off. Sorry about that. That's a huge reason why I'm in my head as well, right? Because mostly, so I will like hyper focus on something sometimes to the point where I literally get sick. But St. John's wort has helped me tremendously in that area, and I'm going to type it in here for you in case you're interested in looking it up. But I have into a lot of the work that I've been doing, I can say like a lot of the elbow, some of the crochet has helped me out a great deal in this area. So even because I was taking St. John's and sometimes I would still stay in my head. But a lot of the things that I have been doing in the tradition, so that's going to be individual. You have to check to see what you need specifically for your ori to ground. But just starting off, like exercise as much as you possibly can. Um, let's see. Yeah, get on the ground. Actually in soil, right? If you can, put your feet, your hands in the soil because you want to ground yourself so that you can come back down. You're welcome. You're very welcome too. Let's see. Where was I at? Did I put that on the screen? Or no, I did not. I put that somewhere else. I thought I put it on the screen. Sorry about that, guys. Let me get back to there. I'm going to type it in here so you can see the name of the herb I was talking about. That's what I was talking about. So how do I consume it? Sometimes I'll get the pills. I have both. I have pills and I also have like the loose leaf tea that I boil sometimes. So it really just depends on what's available. I prefer the pills just because it's so much more convenient. I can just pop it in and keep going. I take one a day. I don't know the specific dosage of the one that I use. I'll try to do if I can. I'll look it up if I remember. And I'll try to put a comment here with a link to it on YouTube. It won't be on Instagram though because it won't be available after that. So yeah, there you go. I finally put it in the right place, St. John's wort. But that has been helpful for me. I've heard that like passion fruit is good for it as well. Like OCD, I mean, right? Or just, St. John's wort acts as selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, right? SSRI. So it's helpful with dopamine levels and things like that. I don't know, is it passion fruit, or something like that? I'll have to look that part up. But I know about St. John's wort, so that's the recommendation I'm going to give you here for that one. So moving forward, why would your Ori reject your blessings? All right. So when Ori rejects blessings on your behalf, guys, it can mean a number of different things. It could indicate that you, or whatever you're seeking, whatever you want or desire at that time, is not aligned with your path in general. That's what it could mean. It doesn't necessarily mean it all the time. Another reason, the timing could just be off. It could be aligned with your path, but it's just not the right time for you to receive it. And you are in a space of impatience because you want it now and you want it right now, right? You might have that old boom energy like me, because that's me. I want everything to be right there right away, even though I know things are for me, but I know it might not be for me right that minute. Just have to exercise patience, do my little deep breathing and keep it moving. All right. You could also be holistically misaligned. So it might not be misalignment with the thing that you want, because the thing that you want could be for you, but you may be just completely and totally misaligned in life in general. You're engaging in some activities that's not conducive to you living your best life and you following your destined path. And so Ori's like, no, even though this is something good for you, you're not gonna get it, right? It's just like your parents, right? You're doing bad, so they're gonna punish you. They're not going to allow you to go out with your friends or go to the movies or whatever it is that you might want to do, because you're not in alignment with what you need to be doing. So they're not going to reward you because that won't benefit you. Okay, you said what's a good way to start off Ori practices? Honestly, just walking in it with Pele, right? Living the best life that you can. If you're saying like maybe just to align with your head, I would recommend meditation. And with that being said, I'm not necessarily talking about the traditional Eastern forms of meditation. You can do that if you want to, if that works for you. But find something that does work for you. It could be like chanting, some African chants. Especially like the chants and things like that from the Odu. It could be drumming type of meditation. Whatever works for you. Just sitting in silence, like really, like just going into a space. And I have a prayer closet. Literally, I have like a section of my closet, my literal closet, dedicated for my prayer. And I have my ancestor altar and my other shrines and things like that. And like that's a daily practice for me. I just go and sit in there and I pray, and I meditate, and I just sit in silence sometimes because I have to, because my brain is always running. So I make sure I take all that time to just sit, so I don't get into a space of like overthinking all day long, because I can easily do that because I think so much. So yeah, I would say that, just basic meditation. It doesn't have to be anything fancy or anything like that, right? Working with Ori through the tradition looks like doing the Ibori or maintaining the house, the Ile for Ori, and feeding it through that. But your everyday life, just doing the things that are going to be beneficial to you for the most part. Okay. And again, the caveat being, as long as it's not taboo for you. And the only way you know that, again, is through EDAFA or what have you. But usually, like meditation, it's not going to be taboo for anybody. Like just taking that time out to free your mind and release your thoughts and to be in a space of peace, right? You also may be dealing with external blocks, as I talked about before, right? So if somebody's sending negativity your way, that could be disrupting your blessings from getting to you fully or getting to you undisturbed. Because sometimes the blessings will come, right? So, or it will allow the blessings to come, but they can come with a lot of disturbances or challenges. So you want to be careful, right? Like for instance, you could get a lot of money, right? You get the money and then you get robbed and all a part of it is gone or something like that. So the blessing came, but then it was immediately disrupted. All right. Or you could get a lot of money. You've been asking for money. You get the money. And let's say you have a bad car accident right after that and you're hospitalized for months and you even so damaged to the point where you can't even truly enjoy the money. Right. So those things can happen as well. Let's see. Asadu, you're saying, I found it a good time for me to communicate with my Oris during that period of satisfaction shortly after rigorous exercise. And great point. So you love to exercise. I do exercise. I make it a point to because I have to. Otherwise, I would easily forget. I have to put it on my calendar because I prefer to stay in my head. But because you love to exercise, you love that vigor, then that's helpful for you to connect with Ori right after that point. And that's great. And it may be also beneficial for other people who love like physical activity and things like that. Yeah, physical activity is a forced thing for me. I can sit at a computer all day long. Doesn't bother me. It does physically because I have to force myself to get up and move around. But as far as mentally, like that's my zone, right? I love technology with that Ogun energy. I love to think. So I think too much sometimes. So yeah, let's talk about a few advanced story insights, questions that you guys asked me that are connected to Ori and other dynamics. This is the last section that I plan to go through. So please, guys, submit any questions that you have or concerns before we transition out. So, what's the difference between Ori and the Orisha? As I said before, Ori is an Orisha. However, it's your personal divinity. It stays with you all the time. The Orishas on the other hand, are elemental forces. They connect with everybody. They are universal forces. They influence your life based on different cosmic cycles and events that are going on, right? So sometimes you may feel their energy more. They're always within you, but sometimes you're going to feel their energy more so than at other times, depending on the cycles of the cosmos, right? As far as what Ori looks like and following somebody else's path or what have you, you want to be careful there. You don't want to follow or focus somebody else's path. You want to do what works best for you. And it kind of goes back to that question before, like what's a good way to start off with Ori practices? I do recommend meditation and even so fasting and things like that. But again, it has to be things that work for your life. You never want to force something if it's not like vibing with you. Find something that vibes with you. Like sit and ask your Ori specifically, how can I connect with you? Right? And then pay attention to your dreams and pay attention to your thoughts or synchronicities in your day-to-day environment. And your Ori will tell you and guide you to where you need to be specifically for you. Is the concept of Ori present in other African traditions or spiritual practices, right? So absolutely, Ori alignment is central to any ATR at the end of the day, though the naming system, the nomenclature is going to be different from tradition to tradition because obviously it comes from a different language set because of the culture that it comes from. So in like the Kemetic practices, the Ba is considered to be that spiritual personality. The Ka is the vital life force. The Akan belief system, you have Sun Tsun, that spiritual essence, and Okra is considered to be the soul from the creative force. Similar aspects also appear in other spiritual systems. So really, like when you hear the higher self, that refers to our spiritual conscious, that part of Ori that remains in the heavenlies, right? What people oftentimes, it's kind of new age, the Christ consciousness, right? Higher genius, you hear those types of terms. So many other terms out there, right? In native and indigenous traditions, a spirit guide, spiritual ally, etc. In some shamanic lineages, you may hear it referred to as the true self, right? That's your authentic personality. That's you, so to speak. In some of the new thought practices, you might hear the term the oversoul, right? So all of those terms can refer to what we call Ori in the Ifa tradition. Pretty much, well, not pretty much, every indigenous or traditional spiritual practice has this notion of the higher self, and how they work with it or appease it can be different. In traditional African practices, you're going to still see the same notion as feeding the Ori through life force offerings and things like that. What is a Rumula's role in destiny, and how is that different from your Ori's role? So a Rumula, often referred to as Ifa, so we do Ifa divination, that is actually coming from the Orisha Orunmula, right? Arunla is the custodian of wisdom who helps to interpret your destiny, where you are. That's where the Odu comes from. And you're going to figure out where you are on your path and what you need to do to get aligned through Idafa, right? So he witnessed everybody choosing their destiny before they left a room. So he keeps that knowledge and he knows what you're supposed to be doing. And then when you get a reading, he's looking at the reading is looking at where you are at that particular time in life and really what you need to be focused on to get yourself back on track. So a lot of times people come to Ifa readings with questions because they do it a lot, very similar to like the psychic readings or the tarot readings and things like that, which is not wrong, right? Even in traditional practice, people ask questions during Ifa divination, but they understood that the purpose of Ifa divination is to get that Odu. And that was the primary thing that they wanted. But you can absolutely, you're encouraged to ask questions, but understand that anytime you get Idafa, it should come with an Odu that is going to spell out different aspects of your destiny at that point in time. All right. As I said before, Ori, that's that personal divinity that actually chooses and governs your destiny. All right. So you can look at it like Ori decides, Orunmila guides. That's the difference there. So, what is the difference between Ori and the ego? All right. Ori, as we've already talked about, that's your inner head, your spiritual consciousness. It houses your intuition, tends to be more altruistic, meaning that it's focused on the greater good. It's focused on your well-being, but also the well-being of those around you, the environment, the spiritual forces. Your Ori encompasses all of that, and it wants to live in alignment with the greatest good for all involved so that life can be better holistically. Well, the ego is a part of your personality or yourself, right? Your mental functioning that guides your desires, right? It's based on like a lot of things that you experience in day-to-day life, trauma, even good things, other factors that are even so like going on within the cosmos, like you have full moons or what have you. The energy that's going on can absolutely affect you. Mercury retrograde, which Mercury is moving forward today, and I'm grateful for it because that energy absolutely disrupts things and affects things. Mercury has been causing me some issues on the website, and I thank all of y'all too who have bought courses, and I didn't even realize it until just recently that it was like messing up with the PayPal, right? And so, well, the good part about it, the energy brought that to light, which it always does. So I was currently in the process of fixing that, but you can still buy courses off of the website. I just had to shut down the PayPal aspect of it for now until I can get that remedy. But moving forward, right? So yeah, your ego tends to be more self-centered, more self-serving. Is what makes me happy at this time. Now, the reality is what makes you happy could actually be in alignment with your destiny, but very oftentimes it's not. That's why we say like the ego or what have you. Ego, not ego. The ego. All right. So Ori, you think about it like this. Ori seeks self-elevation, while the ego seeks self-gratification. And as I said, sometimes they can't be aligned, especially if you're doing a lot of amazing work with your Ori to where you're aligning and you may just naturally desire to eat well, to exercise, or to do those things that are going to be beneficial for you and other people around you, right? So it's not necessarily that they are always out of alignment, but they can be. So that's all I have for you guys. I'm going to tell you what's coming up next week shortly, but be sure to go check us out on the Asanee 44 website. I think all of you all who have, you are really amazing, and I love that you all are really enjoying everything that we're putting out there. So the courses are there. I think it's the Ifa divination course that is actually on sale right now. So check that out. It's on sale through the end of the month, and this good now. The mishaps are okay. You can go ahead and purchase it. Let's see, and any other resources that you desire related to the tradition. Lots of excellent information there, lots of blog posts, guidance, etc. So anything that you need to walk your destiny with confidence, we are here to help you. In our next live stream 2 weeks from today, I plan to cover juju, witchcraft, black magic versus Ifa rituals, because I've been getting a lot of questions about that lately. Like, well, what's the difference in doing an animal sacrifice in Ifa and doing an animal sacrifice or another type of sacrifice, and is considered to be bad or what have you? So I plan on covering that in the following live stream. So if you guys do not have any questions for me, I bid you all farewell. Ashe. Have a very blessed and beautiful day as always and beyond.